The Build Show Build Boston series is sponsored by Allura Fiber Cement Siding, Mitsubishi Electric Train US, Roseburg, SCHUCO USA, and Warmboard.
John Ruskin said it really good when he said, let us think that when we build forever. I think what he was really trying to say is not let's build a 500-year house, but let's build a morally strong house. Let's understand what the decisions are, identify the impacts of the solutions that we could potentially use as part of that project, and put together the matrix of solutions that is as morally responsible and fitting the project as it can be.
Hey, welcome Build Show Network. Steve Baczek, architect here, and we are starting something new and something that I think is going to be pretty awesome. So we're embarking on a new Build Show Build series. We're in the Metro Boston area. This is literally in my backyard, so it's going to be a great opportunity for me to just be out here all the time and watch this project come to life. We have a project behind me there. You can see the house there. We're going to be dismantling this house very soon in an effort to put up a new home. And the new home is going to be a zero energy home. It's striving for passive house standards. We're in the process of working that out with our energy rater and going through the details there to see what it takes exactly to get this house to achieve that level. But it is going to be zero energy. We have that already in the works here. The homeowner is going to drive both their cars on the house, so we're moving in the right direction here. But we're going to try really hard to bring that sense of awareness. And what I really mean by that is that we're going to offer you not only the decisions that we made, but the conversation that led up to that decision. So you'll get a really good understanding of why did we make the decision we made? What were some of the other decisions that were on the table that challenged the decision that we chose? I can't even tell you how excited I am about this project. It's a great client. It's a great builder that I've worked with before. We got a whole bunch of great subs that are going to be out here. The manufacturers that we have on this project here that are the products we're going to be using are top-notch, great collaborative effort. Not only is this going to be highly educational, it is going to be a ton of fun. So I look forward to it. Hopefully you do too. And let's go find the client and we'll see if we can't get some information out of him on the project. Scott, pleasure having you here, man. I'd tell everybody you're excited to embark on this project, but that's a severe understatement, just so you know.
So first of all, thanks to Steve. We embarked on this project a few years ago with having really put solar on a couple different properties over time, family properties and so forth, and taking the time to learn. And I've been involved in a number of energy saving projects in New York City and then in Massachusetts. And I've learned a lot about solar, and the solar sort of led to the look at trying to understand. The last house we did was with batteries, and that taught me a whole different realm of things and taught me how much I didn't know. And that led us to being luckily introduced to Steve. And Steve has been a wonderful partner in this process. I don't consider you hire an architect. I consider you partner with him, because the reality is Steve has to decide to work with us as much as we have to decide to work with him.
It's definitely, I just call it a collaborative effort, which it has been. Yeah. And it's if you're hiring an architect to go and think you're just going to ask a couple questions and they're just going to give you all the answers, I don't think that's a fluid approach, and I don't just don't think it's a successful approach.
And one of the things I love that Steve did for us was he gave us our homework assignments at the outset when we looked at this property and were pretty serious about it. And the homework was a whole series of questions about the way we live, the way we want to live, and really trying to determine how we view the house we wanted to have. And he set us out to do that independently, not to talk to each other. And that was a bit of a challenge because you sort of want to look over the shoulder, but you don't.
And have that conversation. Everybody wants to share their ideas. But
yeah, and see if you're in sync.
This is the one chance that you get to have it your way. It might not end up that way, but...
And what was truly remarkable was when the first design came in, I had the great fear at the outset, would Steve be in sync with what we thought? Would John's views be in sync with what I believed? And the wonderful thing to me was I was just smiling when I looked at the first designs because they were truly the vision that I've always hoped to have as a house. And I think the view that I've had is that the world is changing, and where we had a house that I've now done two, personally, where they were solar that was net zero except for that little thing called heating. It taught me an awful lot about solar. And then I looked at the pieces that were missing. And what was really missing was the whole idea of being all electric, was having our heating in a way that I felt better about that was off of fossil fuels. And we would end up with far better air quality in our house. And the interesting thing is, as we've gone through the process of the current house and looking at the changes, we've had the time to put in sensors and look at air quality and determine a tremendous amount of radon in the basement.
Yeah, and I mean, if you walk through that house now, it's there's stuff growing behind the walls, clearly.
Yeah, and the amount, actually, if you look downstairs today, there's a tremendous amount of stuff growing on the walls, and because it's 94% humidity downstairs today. And so I think all of these pieces came together where we really felt the good part of our process was learning as we go along, and it's a constant battle to learn more and to ask questions, which I'm famous for asking more and more and more. But also finding the partners in some really wonderful manufacturers who we're working with on this project, who've spent time with us, talking with us about what we should be using, talking with us about ideas, and Steve's vast experience in this area, where I started out with the idea, and John and I did, with the idea that envelope first. And while we knew Steve from seeing pictures of things that he'd done, we knew he could build a beautiful house, but the thing we knew first was he was one of the few people out there who really knew how to do a magnificent envelope for a house that we can feel confident from the insulation and the lack of water infiltration and vapor and so forth, that we would be designing a house that we could live in for a long time without having challenges, a sustainable house.
Yeah, I mean, I can sum that up in, quick statement, because I use it all the time, that, when you're designing and/or building a house as a client, you really need to consider that the house certainly has to look good, because good-looking houses people take care of, but it needs to perform as good as it looks. And as an industry, we fail miserably there. And and I say that, and I think I can say that with 30 years of experience in doing numerous building investigations and just designing houses that have, what I call catastrophe type problems. But we really need to concentrate on the other 1,000 questions beyond what color do we paint the house, what kind of tile do we have in the bathroom. Those are all important. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that there is a whole set of questions that we're going to bring to your attention as we go through this project, that some of them you're going to sit there and say, yeah, I never even thought of that. Wow. And these are the things that we need to worry about, because this is, we're going to dismantle this house. We're going to put up a new house. That new house, my plan is not for it to be there for 5 years. My plan is that that house is, 100, 200, 300 years. We're here in Metro Boston. We probably have a handful of houses that are 200, 300 years old, within 3 miles of where we're sitting here. So it's not, a crazy idea, but we have to make right decisions to put that house in a position for success so that it can travel through time like that. Now, Scott's being really modest because I'm gonna throw him a little curveball here, but you know, the thing that I love about working with Scott is he walks the walk. So about, I don't know, maybe a year ago, you know, we started talking about the zero energy home. We've looked at 3 or 4 sites together. A couple of them I vetoed pretty quickly.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, but he found this site. It's an absolutely gorgeous site. And I jokingly tell him, you know, if you don't build a house here, sell me the site. I'll build my house here, because this is just a fantastic site. And actually, I would probably build the house that we're going to build here for me anyway. But the interesting thing about Scott is that he walks the walk. For the last year, he's been working with politicians in the state to rewrite the way we understand solar and how people get subsidized or paid for by it, what the limits are, and all of that stuff. And he's made a tremendous headway as kind of a sole soldier going after this system. And I don't know, I'll let you speak to it, because I mean, it's very commendable.
Well, thank you. That's been very nice. There are a lot of people working on tremendous things in the state of Massachusetts that bring things forward, including a lot of great politicians who've come around a long way. But there was one issue that we faced, which was the state has been pushing a climate bill from 2021, where we were pushing towards more and more net zero houses. And there's a net zero building code that's coming, we hope, in the next few months. But the one problem was that they cut off there was been a cap on the size of the solar array you could have before net metering was cut back significantly. And that really impacted the number of people who would be willing to do it, and the size of the arrays, and so forth. And we're very pleased. We hope in the next few days, by the time anyone sees this, the governor will have signed the bill that pushes that from 10 to 25 kW as the size of a solar array, which is pretty much the size that is really much the max you'd need.
And that's not a baby step forward. Understand, you're going from 10K to 25K. That's leaps and bounds. And you know, if you're truly dedicated to this, then those are the kind of steps that we need to take. Those are the kind of movements that we need to do. It's not just about putting in an induction stove or maybe a heat pump water heater. It's about taking the whole house electric. It's about putting a couple chargers in your garage so that both of your cars and or trucks are running off of your house.
And we're doing all of that here. We're looking at this as a house. I feel a sense of responsibility that, you know, I've watched a lot of houses go up in the town we live in right now, and an awful lot of them are not built to a standard that I think is sustainable, that we need. A standard that we're trying to achieve here. And Steve and I have had lots of discussions on passive house standards and moving to, we're shooting towards passive house. We're waiting for the energy raters to give us their commentary. But you know, with Steve's experience on that, we should be able to achieve it.
Yeah, and you know, something else to look forward to is we're going to have a bunch of firsts on here. We're working with some manufacturers to bring some new products and such to market. So you're going to be able to see some things for the first time. But what I'm really excited about is there's a lot of details that are going to be time tested that you probably heard me say 1,000 times in this project. But there's also going to be a whole bunch of new technology that we start looking at the house rather than just this building we live in. It's really going to become an integral part of Scott and Jonathan's life, in that, you know, their fuel for their cars is dependent on this house. There's going to be technology in there that reveals information about what the house is doing, where loads are, what electricity is flowing through the house, that they'll be able to grab with a couple apps on their phone and be informed on what their house is doing, and potentially shutting things down, turning things off from, you know, distances away or on vacation, whatever the case is. But it's a really interesting knitting of a lot of old world tested technology with state-of-the-art front-running stuff that we're going to bring together and call it a project.
And the great thing also is there are so many technologies that have now come on the market within the last year or two. So, and we're very excited to be able to use a lot of new technologies that are affordable, off-the-shelf items that will give you information you did not have the ability to have before, between the amount of electricity you're using, where it's being used, controlling it, as Steve said, to the idea of air quality monitoring, so you know when we turn on that gas stove in our current house and we watch the quality of our air go down by the significant numbers, it opens your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the whole time we've been designing this project, working with Scott, developing this video series, you know, the word that just keeps kind of pounding at me is this idea of awareness.
Yep.
And it's awareness on so many levels that's really what's exciting to me. You know, we're going to talk about the details here, but there's going to be things that you're going to become aware of just because of the technology that's going in this house, that it's information that we've never had before living in a house. You know, I just can't help but say, if every client that was building a house across America did half of what homework Scott and Jonathan did on their project, we'd reduce energy consumption by 20%. Just incredible, the amount of work that they've already done and brought to the table. So
it's a huge learning curve in which we will continue to learn forever if we continue to ask the right questions. And I also want to say that, you know, we're very pleased to be doing this with the Build Show. When we started talking with Steve originally, the idea of video sort of developed out of initial thoughts on the house, and we'd looked at doing it ourselves. And I just feel very good about the partnership with the Build Show, as they're going to do this and educate a lot of people. And I've benefited tremendously in my learning curve from Steve and from the Build Show, from lots and lots of videos that I often refer to as the rabbit hole at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, and don't worry, Build Show watchers out there, I've already blackmailed Matt on a couple things, so he's going to make some guest appearances out here, and we're going to walk through and talk through a whole bunch of stuff with my good buddy Matt. Alrighty, Build Show Network. Obviously, you can see the excitement. I'm excited about this project. I know Scott and Jonathan, the excitement never ends with those two. Collaborative effort. We got LDS Construction that's going to be joining us on this project. Jared and Kevin, they're going to come here. We're going to get them on video. We're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to their subs. We're going to have Matt out here. We'll get maybe even some guest appearances, who knows? But we're talking 24 episodes at a minimum, where we talk about every aspect, all the decisions that we made here. We're gonna go back to the studio. I'm gonna break out drawings. I'm gonna break out Big Red. We're gonna have discussions about the plans and how we take that information and get it to the builder and how the builder interprets it. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming your way. Like I said, 24 episodes, Build Show Build from Boston. I'll catch you later.